Looks like this is going to be tougher than we thought.
Yeah, I can't wait! He's getting stronger!
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my non-spoilery review of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. Funimation was nice enough to invite me to the premiere. It was at Mann's Chinese Theater on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which means that they went all out for it. Dragon Ball is one of the most popular franchises around the world. No surprise that they spent all the money to make it really awesome, so it was a really good time. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I know a lot of people are wondering how the movie sets up potential sequel series, like people are calling it Dragon Ball Super 2.0 because there's some new manga that's teasing a new arc that they're going to be covering, but I'll try to address that in as non-spoilery a way as possible. The movie itself, just in general, is meant to be a bit of a creative, soft reboot for the franchise. If you're a really big fan and you've been following the movie since Dragon Ball Super ended, you probably heard Toriyama talking about how they're changing the way they animate Dragon Ball. They're going to a much more classical style. So if you're a big fan of the look of classic Dragon Ball and you weren't so hot on what they did during Dragon Ball Super, you'll really enjoy the look of the movie. It looks fantastic. The way they go through their different transformations, they also go above and beyond to make the colors pop on screen. It also helps that Broly is green for the most part. So if you're familiar with any of the classic movies, there are a couple Broly movies. Essentially, they're just reimagining the characters. So even though the old Broly movies were never canon, if you ever wondered if you had to watch those to understand what's going on, you absolutely do not. The film is filled with Easter eggs for all the canonical Dragon Ball series, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. So if you've been a fan for a long time, you really enjoy a couple really cool montages. There are a couple time jumps during the movie, and they use those to lay in a couple big references to stuff that happened while Goku was growing up. The film is about an hour and 40 minutes long, so it's a little bit longer, like there's more stuff in it than you would expect in a typical Dragon Ball film. But I think a lot of that is due to them bending over backwards to try and explain a lot of basic concepts, who the characters are, just in case anybody is going into the movie fresh and has never seen Dragon Ball before. So on that level, it actually did a really good job. Like if you have somebody that you're trying to introduce to Dragon Ball, you can actually start them on this movie. But like I said, if you've been watching every single series, you will notice Easter eggs for everything. Part of the idea of this film is to sort of creatively reboot the way things look and the character dynamics for like the next 10 years of Dragon Ball. They haven't said exactly what the next series is going to be, but everybody I think is in agreement that something is going to be announced sometime in the next year. As far as character work goes, I feel like they did actually a really good job with Broly. If you ever go back and watch Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, his motivation is pretty hilarious. Typically, you don't watch those Dragon Ball movies for just amazing Shakespeare-level dialogue or character motivation. Like, you just want to see them do really badass stuff. So without getting too nostalgic, I'll say this is definitely one of the best, if not the new best, Dragon Ball film. MVP of the movie was definitely Broly. He is an actual interesting character in the universe. You genuinely walk out of the movie excited to see where he's going to pop up next and how he's going to deal with all the pre-existing characters that you've been watching during Dragon Ball Super. But Goku and Vegeta just have so many amazing moments. Like if you really like the dynamic that those two have, there are just some hilarious over-the-top moments that we can't really get too specific about just because of spoilers. But if you saw the last big trailer that they released, they were actually just flat out showing you exactly what was going to happen. They trade on a lot of funny moments with their characters trying to get to that big epic moment. Piccolo has a lot of great moments. If you've seen all the trailers, then you know that we get to see Goku's parents. And like I said, they're sort of soft rebooting a lot of things within the Dragon Ball universe. So a lot of their scenes take place during those sort of reimagined origins of Planet Vegeta and what happened to it. There wasn't a whole lot of character growth for Goku or Vegeta or a lot of the returning characters from Dragon Ball Super. Like, it was mostly about Broly setting him up so he got more story almost than Goku and Vegeta did. Typically, you spend most of the time with those characters just because they're the mains, like they're the big fan favorites. But the film is called Dragon Ball Super Broly. They gave it that name because it's basically all about Broly with some Goku and Vegeta and the other characters in it. So I think lack of character development for some of the other characters can be forgiven in them wanting to spend so much time with the Broly character. And just on a plot level, I say they did a pretty good job. They use his character to reimagine what happened to Planet Vegeta and Frieza's role and all that without getting into super big spoilers. They also use the story to retune a lot of the character dynamics to go back to a more classic place. Like, we're talking about animation going back to a classical style. The main character relationships also sort of reset to a more classic place after Dragon Ball Super, because there was a whole lot of stuff that happened with Frieza and the other characters, so there was a big question about who the next big villain was going to be. Frieza is still the main villain of the movie, even though a lot of the marketing makes you think that Broly is the true villain. But there are a couple moral lessons that the film tries to give you, so it actually does have something to say about the way you raise people, right versus wrong, nature versus nurture, how friendships and positive relationships usually win out in the end, and there's this really optimistic sense as you go into whatever the next Dragon Ball series is going to be. So even though there isn't a traditional post-credit scene, like there's no end tag or anything like that, the film just ends, there's the credits, and that's it. They do spend the last 5 to 10 minutes of the film letting you know what each of the main characters' goals will be moving forward. When we get a little closer to the film being released in theaters around the world, I'll do a video about the end of the movie and what they tease for the next big series, because they're very specific. There is no question about what Frieza is going to be doing, what Vegeta, what Goku, what Broly is going to be doing. If you watched all the trailers and all the promos, there aren't that many huge surprises. There are a lot of funny moments, and it's mostly about the character turns. The only thing I wasn't super happy about was the way they resolved Broly versus Vegeta and Goku. Without getting into spoilers, you can obviously see from the trailers that most of the film is them beating the crap out of each other, and how powerful Broly is, even in his base form, and just how crazy he can get. They do a good job of actually explaining how his power works, and it's a little bit different from the classic Broly film. Don't worry if you haven't seen those, the film actually explains that there is dialogue that they give to characters to sort of highlight what's actually happening while they're fighting each other. But based on a lot of the trailer footage, I had slightly different expectations about how their fight would end. So once you do have a chance to see the movie, let me know what you thought of the reboot in creative style, and just remember that whatever the next Dragon Ball series is, it will look kind of like this. Now obviously it's a movie, so they probably spend way more time and money animating this than they'll animate the next series, but just in general, this is what it'll end up looking like. So obviously they're going to be hyping up the movie for a long time. They'll probably use that time to get a little ahead on whatever that next series is. Typically what happens is when animation gets into later episodes, the team falls behind a little bit, so every once in a while you can find yourself with a break in later runs. But they haven't said anything about how many new episodes there are going to be or when it might premiere, so just post all your theories in the comments below. There is an anniversary coming up, so I'm expecting them to make more announcements next spring. But just in general, the film is great, and it will leave you very excited for what's coming next. And there is definitely something that's coming next, so if you were worried that there wasn't going to be any more new Dragon Ball, do not worry about that anymore. Like I said though, when everybody else has a chance to see the movie, I might do a video about the ending just because there's a lot of really interesting stuff that they set up. So while you wait for everything, click here to watch all the other Dragon Ball Super Broly trailers, and click here for that brand new Avengers 4 trailer video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.